This week on Supercars Torque, Mark Skaife and Tim Slade are looking for new jobs, and it's part one of my big Bathurst preview. The big news this week is that Brody Kostecki and Todd Hazelwood have got a new sponsor for Bathurst. Chico Rolls will be on the side of the cars for the 1000, with delivery being released on the Wednesday before the event. The big question on everybody's lips is, will we see Sarah Jane on the bonnet of the car like we did the last time there was a Chico Rolls car? The actual big news this week though, well, is it really that big a thing? Mark Skaife has stepped down from the board of Supercars. At the moment, it looks like it's only going to be while they are doing TV negotiations. Obviously, the contract with Channel 7 and Fox is up at the end of next year, I'm pretty sure it actually is, but they're trying to get that kind of locked down now, and Mark, being one of the lead commentators on the telecast, doesn't want to get himself involved in those TV negotiations due to conflicts of interest. Some might say there's been conflicts of interest all the way through on this. At the moment, I'm probably not thinking it's as big news as what some people think it is. I don't think this is him stepping down from the commentary role or anything like that. I think it's probably more not certain people don't want him getting involved with the TV deal while he's trying to keep his job on the TV. That's probably more the thing. So I think we're still at least going to see him leading up the commentary again next year. Yeah, I know. The bigger one, resignation or whatever during the week, I suppose, is that Tim Slade will not be driving in the category full time next year. That does open up who will be at Premiere next year. My initial thoughts, obviously, they definitely wanted Brody in that seat or a big name driver. Then not getting Brody, I thought, well, Cam McLeod is the obvious choice there. After his Sandown performance, Pete came out and said that Cam would not be the one for that seat. He needed another year in Super 2 before we start looking at him. So at the moment, considering he wants a big name in that seat, Mark Winterbottom is available and he is a big name. Whether that's the right choice for the seat long term, but it does give him a big name star driver to go and sell to the sponsors and keep them happy. And it also gives someone with a lot of experience in the category into that team. He's worked with Jimmy Golding before, things like that. That kind of makes more sense. As a wild card, I'd love to see Richie Stanaway get a bit longer in the category. I think Richie is unfulfilled talent, much like Tim Slade. So yeah, Tim Slade, so much potential there, so little reward from it. There was obviously that awesome weekend back at Winton, I think 2016, when he was with Brad Jones Racing, but other than that, results have been few and far between. He's driven for some of the big names of the sport over the time, obviously a long time there at Brad Jones Racing. He'd been at Stone Brothers Racing, that brilliant 2012 season where he actually beat Shane Van Gisbergen in the championship that year when he was in the third car as well. It's not even like, he was in one of the main cars there at Stone Brothers. It just never seemed to click. He was at Walkinshaw Racing at the wrong time. And then Dick Johnson Racing, the wrong year kind of thing there as co-driver. Blanchard Racing, his results were actually really good at Blanchard Racing when you see what they've done subsequently. You'll be missed as a full-time driver, Tim, but I'd say chances are you are going to get snapped up for, if Tickford, DJR, etc. are not on the phone to you right now for a co-driving gig for next year, I'd be very disappointed in whoever's picking their driver lineups if they haven't at least reached out to you to see what's happening. Now, the other little bit of news to cover off before we get into the big Bathurst preview, Gold Coast and Townsville have been confirmed till at least the end of 2027. Their contracts have been renewed for a little bit longer, which is great, having both of those very special events on the calendar still for that period of time. And we had the fuel rigs sped up for Sandown, so the cars would spend less time in the pits refueling. But then they decided, that the driver changes and brake pad changes and things like that would now be longer than the fuel stops. So they've actually slowed down the fuel stops again for Bathurst. So they've opened up the hose for Sandown so they could flow more fuel. Now they're putting a restrictor in that opened up hose. I don't know. I'm confused as to why now we need to jig with it. If they can't get the driver change done in the time that the fuel, they don't get out of the pits in time. You just wait for the driver change to happen, or you wait for the brake pad change to happen, or whatever. Anyway, I'm just baffled by that. Anyway, talking about Bathurst, now I've got my big Bathurst preview. Normally I would just talk into the camera by myself, but something very exciting. I've got a friend come on board. He's got a little bit of motorsport knowledge. He'll do a little bit of an introduction on this video, but we basically chat. Now this week we're going through the in reverse championship order of the teams. We're going through, you'll see the wildcards first because they're not really in the championship. And then that's how we've picked the order, is reverse championship order. So the back teams in the championship are this week. Next week, you will see the guys in the top half of the championship. So I don't think we predicted anyone for the win actually we did. We did. One of the teams that we're predicting for the win is this week. And both of us were actually very surprised when we go through the team's championship, how far back this team is. No prizes for guessing who that one is. But as has been usual over the last few years, I will be holding a Bathurst tipping competition. The normal rules will apply. I can change the rules as I see fit because I usually forget putting in something. Tipping will close off before first practice session on the Thursday, so get your tips in. The only tips will be taken off this video and next week's video. It will be this year top 5 positions. Preference will be given to those who get the most in the right position. So say if you tip the winner and 3rd and 5th, and second and 4th don't even get in there, and then someone's predicted them all in the wrong order, the preference will be to the person first who's got them in the correct positions, and then whoever's got the most kind of within the top 5 there. You don't have to list the co-drivers if you don't want, so I will accept, Brown, Pie, not Brown and Pie, of course, together. I will, if you put Brown, Feeney, Winterbottom, Mostert, you're probably not going to win because you got Winterbottom in there in a Team 18 car at Bathurst. Anyway, so down in the comments, one of these Supercars Torque mugs, there's a few still available of your choice. Whoever's the winner, I'll let you know what I've got available. But yeah, I'll post it out to you. People within Australia, please, Australia and New Zealand, please, if there's someone international that wins it, there's not many of you that watch these videos anyway, but that's basically it. Down in the comments, put down who you think is going to be the top 5 in the race. Get your entries in before the first practice. But this is, a big lead in to the Bathurst preview with me and Scott, so I hope you enjoy. Now, we've got a big Bathurst preview, and to give me a hand, so I'm not just talking to a camera all the time like normal, Scott's here. You actually have a bit of attachment with some of the teams in there. You're not just a simple fan like me. Yeah, you actually know a little bit more that's going on in the field. So tell us a bit about yourself before we get stuck in and picking apart all the combinations for the big race.
No worries, Dave. Thanks for having me on board, mate. I've been watching and listening and each week with all your videos, and I got the pleasure of meeting you last year, and from there you and I were able to formulate a friendship based on our knowledge and our love for the sport. I suppose a bit about myself is that I joined Corgas, so we supply all the nitrogen for Matt Stone Racing, Brad Jones Racing, and also for Grove Racing as well too. And plus I look after a lot of the support categories in Porsche and Super 2, Super 3, that sort of thing as well. So about 14 years ago when I joined Corgas, we were sponsoring Stone Brothers Racing. So I met and looked after Jimmy and Ross Stone and the time, and we're in the last 6 months of that sponsorship deal there. And then from there, I actually met Matt Stone at that period, and then Matty started his own gig. He started off with 2 people, and he asked me to come on board and supply him with all his nitrogen needs and any welding gases, all that sort of thing. And I've had a front row seat to see that team grow to what it is today. So I'm very proud to say that I'm a foundation team partner through Coregas, but I'm also in depth into the team at Matt Stone Racing, part of the family. Last year, Matt invited me to come and help out with the team going around the country to all the events, looking after catering, but also doing a lot of the pit tours and looking after corporates. And I was able to share my knowledge and experience of the team foremost, and then the actual sport as well too. I did a pit tour in Prop G1 at Gold Coast a couple of years prior, and I had some customers there, and I asked if I could bring them through to do a pit tour, and they said, "Well, you can do the pit tour. You know what you're talking about." And all this information just came out. I didn't even know I had it there, just from listening, watching, learning, asking questions, going into the workshop and talking to the guys and everything. And well entrenched in the family there. Look after Brad Jones Racing as well too, but not to the same level. That's looked after more corporately, but a lot of relationships with drivers, team owners, team members all up and down pit lanes. So I'm all in, mate.
So at least we know who you're going to put down as your favourites for the win on the weekend.
I'll be subjective, put it that way. I'd love to be up there for a 1-2, but as you well know, there's a lot of things that need to go right over the weekend, and it's not just what happens on the weekend; it's what happens at the workshop prior to putting the cars in the transporter to head to the track. So there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that not a lot of people get to see. Some of us are fortunate enough to see that, and you've got to have a lot of luck too. So fingers crossed we have a great weekend. But also, even though I'm in there with these guys entrenched in there, I'm also got a lot of mates who are drivers as well too. So secretly hoping that they do well as well.
All right. Well, let's kick it off. First up, we've got the wildcards.
So didn't they do a fantastic job? They just did their job quietly in the background. I don't know whether it's a Repco supercar thing with a telecast, but they just popped up at the end of the race there. Cooper showed that he was fast up in Darwin, and he's backed that up with another great race with Craig. Craig, well, we all know what Craig's like, and he's put the car in a good position for Cooper to come in and take over. So that I think they did very, very well. I'm expecting them to be in the top 10 at Bathurst.
Yeah, no question. I think there's a fair chance that we'll see these guys even top 10 shootout, and I think it'd be very disappointing if they don't finish in the top 10 at Bathurst as well after the showing at Sandown.
I think a big thing as well too of these guys is Wes McDougall is the engineer for these guys. He's been in and around that 888 environment. He actually engineered for Jamie in his last year of full-time driving as well. So I think Wes needs a bit of a pat on the back here for this one, for these guys. They're the real deal. They're not just there to make up the numbers.
Yeah, and they've also got the advantages. Obviously, Cooper is lighter than Craig, which Craig's down as the lead driver, so that gives an advantage. And Craig will be starting the race because he's down as the lead driver, which then opens up the strategy opportunities later on in the day that you've got your lighter and probably faster driver in the car at the end of the day.
That's exactly right. But it's one of those things. It's a divisive question about who starts the race nowadays. But I think you look at it from a corporate's point of view and people putting money into the sport over the start of the biggest race of the year compared to the teams wanting to be able to have their own strategy. I can see both sides of the coin. At the end of the day, we just want a really good race, and the best people that the cream will always rise to the top. But as I said before, you need to have a little bit of luck as well too.
Yeah, definitely. And then moving on to the Boost wild card, the late sponsorship there coming from Peter Adderton. I suppose the big thing here, like I was very impressed with what Matt Charter did at Sandown, but then I'd be leaning, and obviously, I mean, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Brad Vaughan, but I'd like to actually see them give Brad a shot at qualifying and possibly even putting him in towards the end of the race.
These guys, they did really well. They were finished on the lead lap at Sandown and didn't do any harm to their chances, but they threw out a Hail Mary on the Monday morning out to Boost Mobile to see if they could come on board and help them out. Obviously, they did. And so they had to get 3 months' worth of commercial items in place in 2 days. So they did a lot of work before that car went into the transporter to head to the track. I think Brad and Matt did a great job. But I think you're right. I think Brad's just that little bit better than Matt. But Matt's a solid performer. He has been for a number of years in Super 2.
Yeah, I fully expected Matt to kind of be off the pace of the main guys at the start of the race, but he was definitely in that fight from the word go. And then you put Brad in the car, and he's on the pace with the main guys, which is not surprising considering he's a front runner in Super 2. I think if Matt's qualifying the car, they'll be in and around the back of the field. I think if Brad qualifies the car, you probably get it into the teens, the back half of the teens, I reckon, probably not the top 10. Next up, we've got the B team from Albury, Macaulay Jones and Jordan Boys in the number 96, and Jackson Evans and Dean Fiore in the number 12. Yeah, I'm not expecting much from these combinations.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think you might be right there, but they just seem to get caught up in incidences based on bad qualifying.
Yeah, and Brad Jones Racing doesn't have the best record at Bathurst either. And I can't... These lineups are probably not inspiring me to think that anything's going to change.
Well, that's right. I mean, Macca has had flashes of speed during the year, but it hasn't been consistent. And Jordan's been running the Trans Am series and has been doing quite well there, but he hasn't had a good run at Bathurst over the years as a co-driver either.
No, well, his best run, then he got disqualified for dodgy engines, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, but so I think these guys will finish in front of the BRT cars. Put it that way.
Yeah, that's probably a reasonable shout. But I can't see them troubling the top 10 in qualifying or the race at all.
Yeah, man. Dean's been around for a long time. Hasn't had a lot of seat time this year. He did run Super 2 up in Townsville before he had a huge shunt. I believe it was about a 23G hit that he had up there as well too. But some of the co-drivers that are coming to Bathurst have had seat time and a lot of other things. Dean may well have, but it's nothing that's sort of been in our face saying, hey, look, he's been running around the car and, to help out. But muscle memory, right? Like you don't forget how to go fast. It's just get in and pull the straps down and away we go.
Yeah. So, not predicting much for these guys, unfortunately.
Unfortunately not, as much as I'd love to say yes.
Next up, we've got the Blanchard Racing Team. I'm happy just to ride off the number 3 at the moment. Honestly, I'd love to see them throw Aaron Cameron in for qualifying just to see how he goes. Because granted, Love had an accident in qualifying at Sandown, but he was still last on the grid when you had Matt Charter there.
Well, that's right. I mean, I think Aaron seems to get flustered when he's under pressure, when everyone's sort of picking on him in the track, and he tends to go backwards fast. The car itself doesn't seem to hold on to its tyres properly. Yes, qualifying's a big thing as well, but during the race meeting and even last year, they just could not keep their tyres on this car, and they're behind the eight ball. But uh, sadly to say, but I think I would like to see JC and Jack do a great job. JC's
Yeah.
been up there during the season at a lot of race meets, but just keeps dropping back. I mean,
Mm.
whether it's a car setup thing or with in the garage, there always seems to be a change in engineering or staffing and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So you could have the best sponsor and follow you to a race team, but if you don't have all the ingredients to back that up, unfortunately, you're going to continue to stay down the back as much as you'd like to see someone like Jack be further up the grid.
Yeah, I can see like Courtney, you know, getting it into the top 10 shootout over the weekend, but then not being able to keep that pace during the race.
Absolutely. And I think Aaron Cameron, I think your call's right there about giving him a crack.
Hmm.
What do you got to lose?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the Aaron Love experiment, as hard as it is to say, he probably wasn't ready and needs more time. But if you've got Aaron Cameron there at the moment, throw him in the deep end, see how he goes, and maybe you got your replacement there.
I mean, obviously, all these guys can drive. I mean, you look at how
Yeah,
many seats there are in the category compared to how many people there are in Australia. These guys
yeah,
are the best of the best. Just unfortunately, the guys that he's racing against are that much better than him. And you don't like kicking the bird in. I mean, you and I don't drive
no.
in the category. So
Oh,
we're
I'd,
lounge chair racers.
I,
So
I admit, I'd be days off the pace if I got in one of these cars. Like, you're not talking seconds. Like, I, I'd be happy to get like under 2 minutes around Bathurst, under 3 minutes around Bathurst. Like,
if you drive around Bathurst normally at 60k an hour, it takes about 8 to 10 minutes to do the lap.
yeah,
These guys are doing
yeah,
it in what, 204s?
yeah. At 60Ks going through the dipper and that scared the crap out of me.
But no, I mean, these guys can all steer a car. They really can. It's just all the ingredients need to be right.
Yeah, and I don't think the ingredients are right there. So I think at the end of the day, I'll be surprised if we see either of these cars in the top 10. If they're circulating at the end of the day, yeah, they'll be lucky to be 15th, I reckon.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think there'll be a big emphasis on the engineering team to try something a little bit different to get them away from other people's strategies. And you never know where you pop up. Hopefully, we don't have a boring race like we did last year. You just don't know.
Yeah. Up next, rather surprisingly, we've got last year's champions, Erebus, 10th in the championship. Realistically, though, I reckon at least the number one is in with a shot at the win. And even, Jack LeBrock and Jaden Ojeda are a very strong lineup too.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Brody's starting to get his mojo back. I think you can see that in Sandown last round. And Todd did a solid job until he had to take a different line at the back there and with a flat tire. But I've got Todd and Brady down in the top three. I really have. But like you said, Jack and Juice, they're a good combo. They did a really good job at Matt's last year. Really good combination. Jack is someone who can be consistent all the time, but I don't think he's had the right car underneath him this year to really prove what he can do. Last year, the Gen 3 car really suited Jack. He was able to adapt his driving to suit them. But our Juicy, he's a proud Aussie wog, and he embraces that quite strongly. But he's been racing GT3 cars around the world actually this year, so he's got some good miles underneath him, and they could be a top five as well. So this team, even though they're down the grid, they can be right up the 20 end.
Yeah, I'm putting like the number 9 as a dark horse for the race. I think they'll get it in the top 10 shootout, and they'll be in the top 10 somewhere during the day, with an outside chance at a podium or win. Whereas the number one, I definitely think he's going to be in the fight. Todd's going to be able to take it to any of the other co-drivers, and as long as Brody turns up, the 2023 Brody turns up, he's going to be able to stick it to any of the main drivers as well. Like they only just missed out on the win last year. He'll be definitely in the fight, I think, on this one.
I mean, at Sandown as well for Jack, he was on for a good result. What do you think about the Matt Payne thing? Should he have got a penalty or fair racing, or how did you see it?
It's a tough one because all the way there during the day, you had people that were probably blocking a little bit hard. So you nearly had to force a move through there. But yeah, it's definitely hard at that stage of the race. Was he far enough up? Could Jack have given him a little bit more room knowing he was beaten? It's a 50-50 one, I think. Yeah, I'll sit on the fence a bit.
Get splinters. But these cars are still hard to see out of as well, too. So Jack may have had an inkling that he was there. How far up he was, he may not have been able to see that. But, I think you're right. I think it is 50-50. It just happened to happen on the corner of a track where the consequences were that he dropped right down the back of the grid.
Yeah. And, so unfortunately, what could have been a very good result and, definitely helped when the other car was out of the race they'd broken down by that point, hadn't they?
Matt had to go for that. He really had to. So, I mean, if he hadn't gone for that opportunity, then it may not have presented itself again. So,
that's it. So, I think as long as they don't get themselves entangled in any unnecessary incidents during the day, these guys are definitely going to be in the fight.
Well, that's right. And I think because you've got 4 good drivers there, good combos, they might have to maybe split their strategy a little bit so we're not having any issues with them double stacking potentially. But with this new full course yellow, it'd be interesting to see. I hope we don't have too many of them because 80Ks around Bathurst, it's going to be a boring race.
It's going to mean a very late finish with no time certainty on it, other than if the daylight disappears. And as you said, the problem was at Sandown, on some of them it felt like it was 5 laps cruising around at 80Ks. So if that happens at Bathurst, it'll be a good time to have a nap. Now we've got the Brad Jones A-team with Andre Heimgartner and Declan Fraser and Bryce Fullwood and Jalen Robotham. These guys, I fully expect Heimgartner to be in the top 10 shootout, and pending any Brad Jones Racing usual Bathurst calamity, they should be running in the top 10 at the end of the day. With the Bryce Fullwood, Jalen Robotham, not really expecting them to be in the shootout, but I think Bryce has really been the quiet achiever probably of this second half of the season. And I think Jalen did an awesome job last year with Matt Stones, and he could be a surprise packet a bit with the co-driver ranks. And I definitely see these guys not going for the outright win, but definitely somewhere in that top 10 mix at the end of the day.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, Brycey's been building up to this race all year. You could see him each round getting better and better. He did a bit of a Bradbury in Tasmania, and he openly admits that. But you got to be there to be able to take that opportunity when it presented itself. So whether you look too hard into the combination or the technical lights that they got with Triple Eight now, whether that's helping. I mean, the engineers at BJR, they're smart guys. I mean, all engineers up and down pit lane are smart guys, but these guys are willing to take risks as well too, to try and pull a result as well. But Jalen and Bryce is a really good combination. They'll be rock solid all day. Like you said, I don't think they'll probably qualify in the 10, but I think they'll definitely finish in the 10. They'll move forward quite well. Jalen did a ripping job with Cam Hill last year at Mats as well too. So he's a bankable co-driver as well, and he and Bryce will really suit each other. Declan and Jaime. Declan's been racing GT3 for Triple Eight during the year too, and has been doing a great job. I'd expect them to be close to the top five. I'd really like to see them up there. Andre, if it's a wet race, look what Andre did at Taupo. You can't discount them as well too. But Jalen can do a great job. Declan can do a great job. These guys could be smokies.
You put them down as potential winners.
No, not smokies for a good result. Probably, I wouldn't go for a win, but smokies in regards to being close to the podium. Probably, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'd probably put them more in that back half of the top 10, but I'm not going to be surprised when either or both of these cars end up in kind of that 5th or 10th position at the end of the day. Next up, we've got Team 18. It's Bathurst and it's Team 18, so something will go wrong and they'll either, what do you reckon, about 5 laps in, one of them will be out of the race?
You don't want to get them to the end of the race like they did last year, and they had to come in on the last lap because they had to run out of fuel.
We shouldn't laugh.
No, we shouldn't laugh because people lost their job over that.
Yeah.
But again, strong combinations as well. We know Dave's a proven winner there as well. Frosty on his day and can pull a rabbit out of the hat as well too. Caruso's the world's fastest downshifter. He's been around a while too. But Luffy, what do you say about Luffy? We all sing his praises every year. He's just there or thereabouts all year. So I think Dave can qualify the car in the top 10 and do a great job. I think Frosty will be just outside the top 10 in qualifying, but these guys could absolutely have both cars in top 10 if they get it right on the day.
Yeah, and it's now a running joke each year. I write Warren Luff off every year about being too old and hasn't had enough seat time and all of that. And then, until kind of last year, he seemed to just bang it on the podium every year at Bathurst, which, with Dave Reynolds, the potential is definitely there. But there always seems to be Team 18 kind of kicks in and something goes wrong at Bathurst. So I'm not going to be surprised if either of these guys is in the top 10 on pace, but with it being Team 18, I'd fully expect them to somehow not finish the race or, a loose bonnet or something on lap 2 and it just puts them behind the 8 ball for the rest of the day.
Oh, that's right. And this team seems to attract those sort of anomalies or out of the blue issues as well. Dave has an affinity with Bathurst. He's always strong at Bathurst. So I think it'll take something outside of the drivers doing something wrong to put him out of contention, whether it be someone else's fault or internally. But Luffy will do his job great, as he does every year too. So watch his space, actually.
So that was me and Scott running through the back half of the teams championship. We won't say back half of the field because I think some of them have definitely got a good shot at the race win, if not at least, getting in the mix there. Next week, we are going through, we may have already recorded this, but we are going through the top half of the teams championship where there is probably a few more contenders, obviously, within that. So keep an eye out for that video out next week. But yeah, don't forget to enter in the Bathurst tipping competition down in the comments and let me know if you agree with my and Scott thoughts for how everyone's going to do in the big race that is coming up very shortly. But until next time, I'm still Dave and I'll catch you later.
Now, I've got a question for you, Dave.
Yep.
This is something that I've struggled with, but thought of over the years. Having grown up, born in the 70s, watching Bathurst and everything, watching so many different cars run over the years. I would like Bathurst to go back to a standalone event, not part of the
Mm.
championship, where all teams have the equal opportunity to run it and not have to worry about who they choose as a co-driver because of where they are potentially in the championship. I'd like it to see it's a standalone event, and here you go, guys, go hard at it. We always talk about having larger grids as well too. Invite the Super 2 teams in to run in the event as well too. I'd just be interested to know what your thoughts are on that. It's just my opinion, but I'd be interested to hear someone like yourself who's invested in the sport as well too, what you might think.
I'm really in two minds on this one because I do like that it forms part of the championship. And I quite like our series. So, like, Formula One is very much all the races are exactly the same throughout the year. And as probably long-time viewers of this channel know, I quite like the IndyCar Championship where they have longer races, shorter races, street circuits, road courses, super speedways, and all that. And I quite like that in our championship we do have those endurance races where the teams really get to get involved in the races. And then you go to Tasmania and have your really short sprints, and then we have the Bathurst 1000 where co-drivers get involved. So I like that as an overall part of the championship that is all in there. But I would love to see, bigger fields with Super 2 guys getting a crack, having where, you can put your Will Brown, Brock Feeney together, and then you don't so much have to worry, like in the early days with Triple Eight, where they were bringing out guys who were Triple Eight drivers from overseas. And like a few people mentioned with the Toyota deal, Walkinshaw will have, I think it was like Harry Rover-Pera as a co-driver from the rally team. You're like, well, no, there might be a chance if they enter a wild card like Toyota car that you might see some odd drivers in, but there's no chance that you're going to risk Chaz Mostert next to a rally driver. Whereas if you did go back to that more standalone race and you had, Chaz and Ryan Wood together, that you could have a throwaway kind of combination in that second car. But then also, would that encourage more wild cards and things like that, or would you just then getting, say, Super 2 teams filling out the back of the field?
No, absolutely. I mean, there's a load of pros and cons. It's just an interesting one I like to throw out there to people who have got a good understanding of the championship and how it runs. It's something that I would like to see happen, but I understand that we're trying to make sure that this category is cheaper to run as well too, by having more events and all that sort of thing. It's great to have more events and, like you said, mix it up with permanent tracks and street circuits and all that sort of thing. But I think being an older gent, being a part of the and seeing how it used to be back in the day, when Coco was running it, the entertainment factor, all that sort of thing. I know maybe it's a little bit nostalgic on my behalf, but I just like to see, we talk about it being our biggest race, our best race. Let's put it up on a pedestal even more as its own standalone event. But at the end of the day, it's just my opinion, and I just like to see what other people think.
Yeah, I think I probably like it being part of the championship. And I like then, I didn't like it being the final round of the championship. I much prefer that it is more, towards the end, but not as the final, because then that definitely took away from whoever won the championship. Because, you get that big, whoever wins Bathurst. I think it's also taken a little bit over the last few years with where you have a main driver and a co-driver, that kind of last year it was seen a bit like Shane Van Gisbergen wins Bathurst rather than Van Gisbergen and Sanaway. Whereas in, you go back 20 years or whatever, it was Lowndes and Whincup winning. Whereas now it's seen a bit more, and it's probably a little bit like making the main driver start. I don't like that kind of rule. And as you said, with the entertainment things, the full course yellow definitely takes away from the entertainment, which I have my own views with the safety car and that, where I think we should be shutting the pits, which then adds a bit more jeopardy in there as well. Whereas this full course yellow takes a bit out of that entertainment, and the having to start the main drivers takes away a bit of the entertainment of having your non full times with your full times at the start of the race, so that you don't have those different strategies for the entertainment. I think
that's right. Yeah, exactly.
my opinion is
the thing is too that if you want to raise the profile of the championship, it's the best way to do it, I believe. But having the drivers that would suit these cars, like your NASCAR drivers, your Kyle Larsons and all those sort of things, their championship's still going on. It would be great to have them come over and run our cars, and this would probably be the perfect event to do it. It's not reflecting on the championship and taking it away from potentially them making a mistake and taking someone out of contention. I mean, that can happen in any race. But, I mean, I don't know. It's just I just like to just flick it out there and see what we catch.
It's a very good thought-provoking one. And, down in the comments, let us know what you think, whether Bathurst should go back to being a standalone or the big problem at the moment. I think we need to probably look at more the entertainment of everything before we probably worry about things like that. And then it then becomes a harder sell. If you're pulling Bathurst out, it takes a big event out of the championship, which then the budgets become harder, I suppose, if you're trying to then add more championship events into the year. So the team owners are going to complain on that side.
I'm happy for them to spend more money so we can enjoy it more.